So I think that they really helped bring organizations where they are today. Gen X did. They kind of had to.
Yeah, because they have to push, hey, this is what's happening out in the world beyond the four walls of our company.
Right.
Are we going to get on board with this or not?
Yeah.
So, Taryn, we are going to be talking about Generation X.
Okay.
I hope there's enough content here. They are the forgotten generation following the Baby Boomers. And let's just be clear about why they're forgotten. They're sandwiched in between two very large populations of millennials and Baby Boomers. There just wasn't population-wise as many Gen Xers. So, 1965 to 1980. Big historic events that shaped them. Fall of the Berlin Wall.
Okay.
Dot-com bubble.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Obviously, yeah.
Global financial crisis of 2008. Two Gulf Wars. They saw one as when they were younger and one as adult. So different environment than what the boomers grew up in. Different world events than what the boomers grew up in.
Yeah, I think thinking about just the few things that you highlighted, the dot-com bubble obviously changed the course of day-to-day working, living, so much of that when the internet became accessible to everybody.
Absolutely. They're known as the latchkey kids.
Okay.
So pretty much parents were working, the boomers were being loyal to their companies, while these kids were coming home with keys around their necks and letting themselves in.
Keys around their necks.
Yeah, they wear them as necklaces.
They didn't have like a hidden key outside somewhere under a rock?
I think that's more new.
Oh, I see.
I feel like that's new. We used to wear keys around your necks. I remember that.
You're not a Gen Xer?
I'm not, but my parents were definitely that boomer.
Yeah.
I would come home alone and have to wait for my Gen X sister to come home a few hours later. Because we were in elementary school.
Yeah, but it was safer then. I feel like I don't know. I guess it depends on the area where you live, but I feel like things were safer then. I would never send my kid to school with a key around their neck.
Yeah, I mean, I was in first grade, second grade. So
yeah, I just can't fathom that.
Yeah, and they put me. I was responsible for my brother.
Oh, really?
What did I know about that? But maybe it was safer then.
Yeah. I mean, there's less crime and things like that, right?
I don't know. We used to have those kids on the side of the milk cartons. So I was always scared that I was going to get kidnapped. We go to school, there's a kid on the side of your chocolate milk. And you're like, what happened to this kid? Where did they go missing?
While you're drinking the chocolate milk.
And then your parents tell you stories. This is why you don't need to be playing, after the lights go off.
Oh, my gosh.
So it might have been safer, but I didn't feel like it was safer. But anyways. Yeah. But so they're latchkey kids. They're pretty independent. They're unsupervised. Sure. So you can kind of see that in their work culture. They represent 30% of the workforce. Okay. And play hard, work hard. They work hard, play hard. They like their toys.
Boats,
cars, vacations, cars, big houses, RVs. They're big on those type of things. Their culture, prosperity, and success were shown in those ways.
Which, I mean, all those things are good if that's what you want in life and that's what you pursue. But I think when we compare Gen X to different generations, like you and I as millennials and especially Gen Z, and boomers, probably are more similar to Gen X than the other two, but we just don't value the same things.
Yeah, we can, but mostly not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of it, maybe. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to be crying about a new car.
Right. Right. I mean, new car, sure.
Yeah. So, but do we strive for that? Probably not.
Yeah.
But that's how it was for Gen X. And that's how and climbing the corporate ladder showed that. Bigger houses, bigger cars, bigger vacations. They do well with work-life balance. So they don't feel bogged down by work. They are loyal to their companies. Less than boomers. But definitely more than millennials.
Yeah.
So that's just how they prefer to listen to and watch TV, radio and watch TV. I don't know if that's true because I feel like a lot of the Gen Xers I know are watching streaming and
Yeah,
things
I think
like
most
that.
of them are.
They're very independent. They also saw the rise of women in leadership in their companies. So definitely some changes.
Well, I think at that point, like more women were joining the workforce where, I mean, not as many were staying at home. So you've got and actually, I think you and I talked about this earlier is because when you have women in works as well, so then you've got the 2-income household. And so, which they were able to do the bigger things,
Yes.
right? The bigger vacations, the bigger toys, boats, all those things.
Yeah.
And so that's where you see kind of a difference than the boomer generation.
Yeah, definitely. I also see, okay, so let's talk about this. Some Gen Xers, Elon Musk,
Okay.
Jay-Z, Jack Dorsey, who's one of the Twitter founders, current Fortune 500 CEOs are mostly Gen Xers.
Really?
Yes.
That's so interesting.
Yes.
But why do we not know more of their names? They're still building a name, maybe? Or they don't care about their name getting out there as much.
Well, I think they're considered the materialistic generation. They're just trying to build their life. They seem to be very independent to themselves. I mean, I don't know about Elon Musk, but
He's kind of the exception, I feel like.
yeah. But for the most part, play hard. They do play hard because I remember being little, watching television, and like they play hard. Big houses, big cars, like the whole thing. Like it was that sign of, ooh, that's, and even the shows were all that.
They're like the American dream.
Yeah, it's like watching MTV Cribs. You're like watching. You're watching. Wow, that's your house. Like that was like a thing.
Yeah,
yachts.
I remember that show.
Yeah. It's called MTV Cribs. Some people say it was staged. Who knows? But if you know, let me know. So let's talk about communication style.
Yeah. So I think one of the things with them is they like to be straightforward, pretty concise, where, I think they could go either way, whereas baby boomers, they like the face-to-face meetings, but because I feel like Gen X is a little more like looking at efficiency, like millennials do, I think they're like, could this be put in an email?
So it depends on the person. I've seen some more prone this way and more. I've seen them really left and really right, like a lot on the boomer side and a lot on the millennial side.
Yeah.
So much so that I've questioned even if they were Gen X, because they kind of blend in that area. But they like transparency. One thing there is a difference with them, though. They want an opportunity for development, so they want to.
They want to climb the ladder.
They want to climb the ladder, and they want recognition, and they want you to seek their insight.
Their input.
Yeah.
Like, hey, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I think that's true for relationships, too. I think Gen Xers you didn't even ask me. I think that's a thing.
Yeah.
So that's different because millennials are not like that at all. We're like, it doesn't have anything to do with me. You do whatever you want.
Doesn't involve me.
Yes. But they are looking for that development. Where can I move up? Where can I get a promotion? That's important. And it establishes their success in their careers.
One of the things when we were looking at Gen X is they're kind of like, because they're kind of in between with boomers and millennials, it's like they're kind of the peacemakers, peacekeepers. What did we say?
Yeah.
So I think for me, like thinking back on different work situations that I've been in, like I've had some of those people as a boss, and they're the type of person that like does keep the peace. They go to bat for you when there's like conflict or whatever. They're kind of that person that filters things, and I don't know about you, but they're wonderful.
No.
Like having that kind of boss was wonderful.
No, I agree. My Gen X bosses were amazing because I think they were very well balanced.
Yeah.
I think they understood that we weren't going to be loyal, so they didn't expect them to be like them. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that does make sense.
So they understood the need for development and growth. So I feel like my Gen X bosses were like, okay, I know you're not like me, and that's okay. They didn't despise me because of that.
Yeah, I feel like there was also more awareness, like of your personal needs or your family dynamic, like whatever's going on. Like there was more of an understanding, if you needed time off or you need to take care of an appointment,
Well, yeah, that's because they're the generation where both parents were working. Like they got married and both of them are working.
Yeah.
So they understand the complexities of raising a family or having, being a caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
Gen Xers understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Boomers, there wasn't always a double income home all the time.
Yeah.
You know, so there might be there could be a disconnect there.
Well, it's like when I was sharing with you about
Yeah.
my story.
Yeah.
It's like there was a complete disconnect. Like, how is this not obvious?
Yeah. And I also feel like Gen Xers, they kind of just stay under the radar. They're just kind of like to themselves and do their own thing. And, you know, they still have the key to the house and come in and go and no one's knowing anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I do find that there are two extremes to them. The one extreme is they're like the boomers.
Mm-hmm.
So you see them exactly. They're mimicking everything a boomer would do. And then the other side of that, I think, is they're more on the millennial side, embracing some of that. But I find them always in the peacekeeper role.
Yeah. Keeping a healthy balance.
Yeah, and probably preventing a lot of millennials from quitting.
Probably.
Sometimes, you know.
I mean, mine did. They kept me from quitting many times.
Yeah. I'm sure there's some Gen Xers that are more a different personality.
Yeah.
But I think personality plays a role in that too.
Well, yeah, of course.
But I feel, this is just my personal experience, but I just feel like they are kind of like, yeah, do whatever. Like, do whatever is good for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I feel like they're always giving us that choice
Mm-hmm.
to make those decisions and advising and guiding accordingly. So, but I don't see them being very strong in any opinion one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
They're really balanced that way, I feel like.
Which I think is a good quality. I mean, and needed. And certainly, like we were talking about, you learn something from every generation before you. And I think that for me, I learned a lot from, you know, my Gen X managers and folks that kind of helped guide me, but also would give me an ear or a shoulder if I needed, you know. They cared. They were very genuine.
I'm curious to see what's going to happen because they hold the most positions for CEOs for Fortune 500 companies.
Yeah.
But then you have millennials who are like, what's the pay? I kind of want work-life balance. I don't think I want to be a CEO. Like, what's about to happen? Like, what's going to happen to the workforce?
It's going to be interesting. Well, then you have Gen Z, too, that, you know, they're making millions off of TikTok.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's their career path, I guess. Or they're still figuring it out. But that's one avenue that they're pursuing. And so they're not really going after that CEO title. They're looking for more flexibility.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm just curious to see how the workforce is going to change. I mean, Gen X might have to carry us for a while. Because we're going to be like, we don't know. We don't want to be.
We need their leadership.
We need you to work until you're like 100. Because maybe then we'll think
Hopefully they'll all live till 100 with their work-life balance.
Yeah. Yeah. And they've learned that very well. They've mastered that very well. They do a good job of that. And of course, half their life wasn't technology and the other half was.
Right.
So they remember and recall that. And it was probably well into a little bit of their adulthood too.
Yeah.
So they're open to understanding that the both sides of that for sure.
Yeah. Talking about that with the .com bubble, like they were a generation that had to adapt to a lot of technology. And I think that they brought a lot of strengths with technology, strategies, and, you know, just having to maybe bring new ideas or strategies with the digital footprint and how that impacted organizations. So I think that they really helped bring organizations where they are today. Gen X did. They kind of had to.
Yeah, because they have to push, hey, this is what's happening out in the world beyond the four walls of our company.
Right.
Are we going to get on board with this or not?
Yeah. Are we going to look outside of the company walls?
Yeah. So it had to be push a company to innovation, I think, a little bit too, to be like, hey, this is what's really happening. You have to convince a word of you know, people that. So I think they have really pushed in that area. They do fall under the radar.
They do.
I don't even have a Gen X story.
You don't?
No.
I mean, I have some positive ones, but there's not any, like, you know, anything crazy because they're just great. I mean, most of them are great people.
Yeah. And they do well in leadership. I feel like they do really well in leadership.
They do.
And so I find myself, I'm like, oh, like your leadership? Yeah, I could follow you. You know what I mean? Like,
well, that's the thing too. You and I were talking about this. Like, there are people that and you and I talked about this, that like I would have left my current job like to follow them because I followed the person.
Yeah.
Because of their impact and the relationship. They're relational people.
Yeah.
Like they care.
I had some managers that had left and went to another company. I was like, I could just go.
Yeah.
Because you just know their leadership is well balanced. It's collaborative and supportive.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's needed.
Yeah.
That's what's needed.
And I thrive in those environments. So for me, that type of leadership is always a good combination for me.
Yeah.
Collaborate with me, but also guide me and kind of work with me as far as being supportive and trusting me. And I don't know this, and I could be wrong. I don't think any of the Gen X managers I had were micromanagers.
Mine weren't either.
Yeah. I feel like they were like, here, do your job. If something happens, let me know.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel like they micromanaged me a lot. But that just could be the luck of the draw, too.
I don't know. I mean, I had great managers, too, that were Gen Xers. They were not micromanagers.
Yeah.
But I have to say the boomer ones were.
Yeah. Yeah, I know they, yeah,
Then
totally.
why were the boomers micromanagers?
Yeah, I mean, because it's that you pay your dues. You work from the bottom and you work your way up.
I guess so.
Yeah. And so Gen X was not like that. You know, they're the MTV generation, right? Music videos. There's a lot of changes culturally that happen with them, not only in technology, but just in culture.
Yeah.
amount
There's
of-
a lot that happened.
Yeah. That time frame, I think we, as a country, were just evolving so quickly, so fast. And they had to adapt, and they did.
Yeah, and they did.
They adapted very well.
I think that's like one of the biggest things about them is just the flexibility. They're so
Yes.
flexible, and I think that yields so well to organizations. Having if an organization is having to go through a lot of changes, structural changes, things like that, like Gen X are key
Yeah.
to making that all happen.
And they do champion change.
They do.
Yeah, they do champion change. So they try to be that neutral voice that kind of champions that. So it helps companies grow and expand, probably at a slower pace than a millennial would try to change it. You know,
Yeah.
we'd be like, let's bulldoze this and change this whole thing upside down because
Yesterday.
yeah, because we're totally different. They're
Yeah.
a little bit more. Let's just get everybody on board and
Right.
let's change slowly and it'll happen. And
Right.
We're sitting here waiting. Why is this taking so long?
Are we the impatient generation? I wonder.
Well, yeah, because we're about efficiency.
I guess so.
Yeah. So as soon as we find out it's insufficient, it's not efficient. We're not wanting to deal with it. So very interesting. A couple of other things I noticed. They're called the silent workhorse.
The silent workhorse. So we need them. Organizations need Gen X, right?
Yeah. I feel like they probably need to get a little bit more spotlight.
They do.
Yeah, for the value that they bring. I mean, they are forgotten. It's because there's not that many of them. You just think, if you think about your corporate companies, you think about all your boomers and you think about all millennials, there's not a lot of Gen Xers volume-wise in population.
Yeah.
So that's why they're forgotten.
Because they were having less children for that generation, I guess.
Yeah.
Their
And
parents
and
were
Gen
having less
Xers
children.
are more nurturing as parents because their parents were sold out to the company.
Yeah. Well, which makes sense why they'd have that more of that work-life balance and doing the vacations as a family and
very family-oriented in when they play hard. They play hard with their families. And so because I think there was an absence of parenting, there's definitely...
more of an emphasis for them.
Yes. They definitely nurtured their kids. They tend to be nurturing parent-wise. They don't want all their time to be at work. They don't. They're very cognizant and aware of that. And so they're very intentional in when they make those decisions.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah. I think more nurturing. Now, we can't complain about the nurturing generation that they've created. So if you're going to create a nurtured generation, you have to understand that that's going to look different too. The more nurturing you are, they experience the world differently than someone who isn't nurtured.
Yeah.
I think one of my friends told me that one of the rules that she had at her house was you got to be home as soon as the street lights come on. Like nobody even knew what time it was. You're just like playing around the streets.
Roaming the town.
Yeah. So when the street lights come on, you got to come home.
Yeah.
That's the time. And she goes, but she never asked me where I went, who I was with, just roaming the streets.
So wild.
Yeah, it is. It's wild. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Like you can't even leave your dog in the front yard
No.
without supervision. Someone's going to steal it.
Yeah.
So it's just, they've learned that interdependence. They've learned it since they were young. They're self-sufficient. They don't need much coddling. They just do their thing. And so they have been, I think, overlooked. But I think they're going to probably be the major backbone of corporate America.
I think so. I mean, I think as more Gen Xers continue to raise up into more leadership roles and CEOs and larger companies and things like that. I mean, I really do think that they're going to be quality leaders, leading the future of corporate America and these larger organizations, because you've got somebody who does understand balance. And I think, COVID, I think too, really impacted this, like having an understanding of the flexible, hybrid type of work. There's just been a lot that's been impacted with that. And I think Gen Xers have a little bit more of a understanding and want to be more flexible when it comes to those needs for the employees. So I think it's going to be really interesting as we continue to watch things continue on down the line with Gen X for sure.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Looking forward to see how this plays out for them.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk about millennials next, right?
Yes.
The greatest generation.
I don't think a lot of people would call us that, but sure. That's going to be my favorite.
Mine too.